Hey everybody, how are you on this fine Wednesday? It is Wednesday, right? Yeah, it's
It
Wednesday.
is. Yep. A lot of games.
One more day until my 40th birthday, and a little bit of time off for me. I'm very excited to be joined by Mike Gallagher. This is the Established Run NBA Injury Report Analysis Show. I'm Drew Dinkmeyer. We've got 13 games on the slate today, and Mike, I thought we were out of health and safety protocol season, but it seems to be coming back with like the last stragglers. It's like a Final Destination movie, man. Like you thought you were safe, and then it just shows up and like knocks out the last few characters that are hanging around. So we have a lot of injury news and information today to get through. How are you doing on this Wednesday?
Yeah, the Grizzlies came out of hibernation a little early and got put in protocols. So that's tough, but doing good, doing good. Matchups was big. I think I hit the 5K mark for words for a while. I'm not trying to do that, but there's so much to talk about today with this huge slate.
Yeah, so let's talk about Memphis. Let's start there because they did lose a few additional players to health and safety protocols. Desmond Bane went into protocols. That was last night. Tyus Jones was added into protocols today. Kyle Anderson in protocols. They're also without Dylan Brooks. He's got an ankle sprain. Killian Tilly's in protocols. So, I mean, they are a team that we've talked about before. They usually like to play, 10-man rotations. It might be a little bit harder to do now. They do have enough bodies. It's just most of their bodies are front court players. They really, really are thin in the backcourt. So how do you see this shaking out for the Grizzlies without Desmond Bane, without Dylan Brooks, without Tyus Jones, three primary rotation backcourt players? How is Memphis going to try to cover the playing time for those three players?
I think the two guys you look at that are clearly the beneficiaries here are John Conchar and D'Anthony Melton. I think they would start Melton, give him the Chris Middleton assignment there. And yeah, his minutes could get really, really high eventually. We know Melton has been kind of hamstrung by this rotation that just won't play him a lot. So now losing so much competition for minutes with Bane, obviously with Brooks, it feels like Melton could really, really get up there. But Conchar is legit, and he's a capable 3-4 man. So I think he can still find time for both those guys to get minutes. Certainly see a lot of Zaire Williams, not great per minute. And then we've seen this Brandon Clark at the 3 stuff that we saw when they were missing guys earlier, when guys were injured, when they didn't have, I think when Desmond Bane was out for a game. So we'll see a little bit of that Brandon Clark stuff. We know they played when Kyle Anderson first got hurt, they kind of put Sandy Aldama in like the Kyle Anderson role where he was like surprisingly the first sub. So I think he'll play some minutes as well. Steven Adams leash is a little bit longer. We've seen him actually be the Giannis primary defender, which Giannis lit him up in 2 games last year against the Pelicans, 38 points in each of those 2 games. But yeah, so it'll be mostly Conchar, Melton as the guys will probably be looking to tonight.
The question for me there is like, how high do you think they can go on Melton and Conchar? Because we do know that they generally like to keep things a little bit spread out. They're hamstrung here on the roster side of things. And like the only other guard that they really have is Jared Culver, who has a little bit of ball handling chops, was kind of like drafted high because he could kind of do everything. And at the NBA level, he's kind of been not good enough at one thing to really like stick in big rotations. And primarily, like he's not a good shooter and he can't really create a lot of offense for other people. So while he can be like a secondary creator, he has no space on the floor to do that because he doesn't shoot. And then he's like a good enough defender, but not a lockdown defender. So he's been kind of like lost in the shuffle. The question being, how high can they go on Melton and Conchar? Because I think that impacts basically it impacts how many Grizzlies you'd consider playing on the slate. Like if they're going to keep those guys at like 28 to 30, they're going to be good plays, but you might be managing your overall exposure. If they're going to let these guys get up to like 34, 35, then we're talking on like it's all systems go,
Yep. Yeah, I think there's a chance, but like you said, the key is if they do go 10 and they have the bodies, but they'd have to kind of shuffle some things around and just go real big, which again they've done before.
Yeah,
so.
It's not a bad matchup to do it either. Because the Bucks are so big, but it would require playing like Brandon Clark at the 3 and stuff like that, which we've seen them be willing to do. So that's the tough part about projecting the Grizzlies tonight. Thankfully, I mean, I shouldn't say this. We know better with health and safety protocols, but thankfully there's nobody questionable on the injury report right now. But obviously, like I'm trying to think through who's been hit before with Memphis because this is like their second wave. If there's anybody else that could still kind of get caught in it, I guess Jaren has never been impacted, right?
No, yeah, and I think Conchar did, Melton did,
Adams did, Ja did.
Adams, yeah.
So I think, in terms of the concerns about like late news and waves and different things, like Jaren's like the last guy that I think hasn't really been impacted significantly yet.
I don't know if Clark is. I don't think Clark.
I don't think Clark has either.
Yeah.
So just keep an eye out there with the Memphis stuff. Obviously, just the nature of this thing is we're still dealing with it with some teams. Kind of on that front, I want to talk about the Heat. After because they got a little health and safety protocol stuff going on with Tyler Hero entering in to health and safety protocols today. They have Kyle Lowry still away from the team with personal reasons. So now you've got no Tyler Hero, no Kyle Lowry. They did get back Bam Adebayo last game. We see the DNP coach's decision from Omar Yurtseven was not in the rotation. In Miami, the thing that's interesting to me is we've got like 12 minutes projected for Kyle Guy as kind of a backup guard. But they've shown a willingness to play really, really tight, and they are okay playing Jimmy as their point guard, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
So if Kyle Guy did not get into the rotation, you could see really, really heavy minutes for Max Strus, Duncan Robinson, Gabe Vincent, and we've seen them be willing to play that tight. I actually think it's kind of one of the more interesting spots on the slate because Portland is not a very good defensive team, and obviously Miami is losing a lot of ball handling and usage here.
Yeah.
Do you think they use Kyle Guy in the rotation, or like what I guess what chances would you put on them going really, really super tight here and Gabe Vincent, Duncan Robinson, Strus, and Butler just playing in Caleb Martin, all like getting into the mid-30s, not mid-30s, but all getting into the 30s?
I think it's pretty close to coin flip. I mean, they don't, like you said, they don't really need the extra ball handling with Jimmy because he just is so ball dominant. Gabe Vincent got talked up even before this from Spoelstra, so they're comfortable playing him. We saw what that Philly game when he played almost 36 when they were shorthanded, so he'll lock down a lot of those minutes. And you're only talking about staggering, 14, 15 minutes with Jimmy very capable of playing ball handler. So I think it's pretty decent that they do that, and they don't need the extra ball pressure on the defensive side. They've got Caleb Martin as their point guard defender at times too. So it's certainly not needed.
Yeah, the more I think about it, I do think it may be more of a coin flip on Kyle Guy, and maybe we need to take him to like 6 minutes just because instead of 12. Because I think if he plays, it's like 12 to 15 probably. Yep. And if he doesn't play, like I think there's a chance he doesn't play. So maybe we need to go lower there and increase Caleb and Gabe a little bit is kind of my first instinct. But Jimmy's going to be in a great spot. A lot of ball handling responsibilities. A Portland team that really lacks an elite kind of perimeter defender. Their best one is Norm Powell, who's out. So it looks like a really, really good spot for Jimmy tonight.
Yeah, not worried about Robert Covington, not worried about Nazir Little, who's been pretty good. Jimmy could just go. And that was right enough matchups. I was like, Jimmy's going to go crazy. And then found out Hero's out. Like, oh my God. Like, it's like total smash.
Yeah. All right. The big question marks on this slate that are not health and safety protocol related. Let's start with Wendell Carter Jr. for Orlando. We've seen, from a DFS perspective, I don't know how much this impacts things because I really don't know how aggressively they're going to bring along Mo Bamba. But the playing time opportunity is certainly there if they wanted to, if Wendell Carter Jr. still misses with this hamstring issue that he's questionable for. If they bring Wendell Carter Jr. back, I don't know if they limit him as well, just because they've been limiting Bamba so aggressively. Now, Bamba's a different case. He's had health restrictions in prior years. Wendell Carter Jr. has not. So I don't know if those two would be treated completely differently. But do you think Wendell Carter Jr. returns tonight? And if so, how do you think that impacts things on the Magic on the whole?
He traveled, so I think they're hoping he could play. But I don't know. Like, these hamstring things are tricky. They've listed guys questionable for a long period of time. We've seen it with Cole. We've seen it with other guys. So I think there's a chance he sits. But yeah, if he does play, it's a hamstring. Like, that's a pretty clear thing that they usually cap, especially a big man. So would think he's capped a little bit. They'll probably run that double big stuff. They ran double big even with Robin Lopez and Bamba in the last game to double up Nurk, who was crushing them. So, I think that could possibly be something to look at there as well. But I think it's probably going to be game time.
Yeah, you see those numbers that Yusuf Nurkic put up against them, and on the schedule tonight is Joel Embiid.
Yeah.
So, good luck. It's not getting a lot easier. Bamba been limited to around 20 minutes. His price tag in DFS keeps dipping, so you're kind of like waiting to see if there's any sort of report that the minutes go back up, if he gets moved into the starting lineup or different things. Yeah. But I think it's harder to pull the trigger on that type of stuff, one, in a matchup against Embiid, and two, with Wendell Carter Jr. possibly returning. So We'll see if Wendell Carter Jr. is back tonight. That would basically get the Magic as fully healthy as they've been all year long, because Jalen Suggs has been coming back, and they've got some rotation stuff to work through there. All right,
Can I just add really quick? If Carter Jr. is out, I think they bring Bamba off the bench again. I don't think they want to put Bamba out there against Embiid.
No, I think I agree with that. I think they'd have Robin Lopez be kind of the sacrificial lamb in that scenario. Totally agree.
For sure.
Kelly Oubre for the Hornets. He is a health and safety protocols. He was the one guy that had not been impacted by the Hornets' first wave of things. Questionable today. What are your thoughts on his likelihood of returning?
Yeah, I believe he has the protocols tag, if I remember.
Right, not the return to competition.
Yeah, so that's usually another game. So we'll see. We saw pretty tight rotations from the Hornets here. Didn't see LaMelo. LaMelo was available to play, didn't play. So they played Cody Martin, insane. It was 46 minutes in a regulation game, completely bananas. So
in a game they had in hand, as well. So
So it would Oubre coming back would cut out Ish, obviously, and then it would cut down McDaniels a little bit. Cody Martin's upside would come down a little bit. But yeah, these guys are going to play quite a bit. Not a great matchup. Boston's been playing really good defense lately here too. So, and also the Hornets have been playing better defense as well. So we saw them just like bleed points like 3-4 weeks ago, but they've actually been like a top 10 defense in the last 7-8 games.
Yeah. If and just a reminder, Oubre is questionable, but LaMelo is not listed on the injury report. So LaMelo just coming back at all is going to probably eliminate Ish Smith, probably eliminate those Nick Richards minutes. They get back to like an 8-man rotation that they feel pretty comfortable with. If Oubre's back, they go to 9, and they just spread out things even more. So the Hornets guys have had a little bit of a mini resurgence of late due to the absence of Oubre and then LaMelo as well. But even without Oubre, there's still a little bit of an opportunity there for sure.
Yep.
Okay. Jrue Holiday, he is questionable on the injury report for Milwaukee. He's been out the last few games. We've seen Giannis and Middleton really carrying the bulk of the load. He was originally in health and safety protocols, but it cleared that and then had left ankle soreness that he's still kind of getting over. Questionable tonight. What are your thoughts on Jrue's availability?
Yeah, Budenholzer didn't sound too confident, in my opinion. He sounded like he wasn't quite full in practice, so I think he's got a chance to miss one more game here, a game that they're going to probably really want against the Grizzlies, and they could really use his ball pressure against Ja Morant. So I think he's got a chance to miss this one, but not confident in it to hit the 75% threshold. Probably have some sort of cap on him as well. But yeah, if he doesn't play, Budenholzer was saying he needs to get George Hill more shots, so I expect George Hill to start, possibly get pretty good amount of volume relative to where he's been. Obviously, Chris Middleton's ball handling, Giannis, as I mentioned, like he has lit up Steven Adams when teams put him against him. It's a different coaching staff, but I still would have stuck Adams to guard a lot of Giannis there. They don't want to put Jaren Jackson on him to be a foul machine. But definitely, I think Giannis could go completely nuts if Jrue sits.
The other thing that I note here is that Memphis has been a very good defensive team throughout their recent run. But you're now down Dylan Brooks, you're down Desmond Bane, you're down Tyus Jones. All those guys are plus defenders. You're down Kyle Anderson, another plus defender. And we've talked about a lot about this in the past, but defense is a lot about familiarity and communication. And when you start getting into weird lineup combinations and guys that haven't played together and different things like that, it's possible that the defense slips quite a bit. So this is a spot that I would be interested in attacking if Jrue does sit. If Jrue plays, it's much harder to get into because Middleton and Giannis are kind of priced for life without Jrue. And same with Bobby Portis. Those have been the guys we've been considering. The secondary guys haven't really been able to separate. Grayson Allen playing a little bit more of late, but just purely a spot-up three-point shooter. And then Connaughton, his playing time has been impacted basically by, Budenholzer's affinity for Wes Matthews and George Hill. And so it just doesn't seem like anybody's really separating there. DiVincenzo's still kind of working his way slowly back.
Yeah, minutes trending up for DiVincenzo, revenge game for Grayson Allen. But I think pretty much nailed it.
Yeah. Okay. Malcolm Brogdon, perpetually questionable. One of the more frustrating questionable tags we've been dealing with. Obviously, the Pacers just lost Miles Turner for an extended period of time. They are, they slipped to 15 and 29 on the season now. Like they're like everything's kind of fallen apart for the Pacers. What is your expectation? Are we any closer to getting a legitimate questionable tag on Malcolm Brogdon, or is this still more of a doubtful?
Back to back. I mean, I don't see there's any reason why he would play in this game. So I think he sits. No indication he's been close. He gets ruled out before warm-ups every game. So again, this is like the fourth time he's hurt this Achilles injury. So I think he sits. Karis LeVert smash spot, one of the best matchups for driving guards. He's driving 20 times per game since he returned from injury. That's a good number for him. And Carlisle said they do want to stay going small, so I would expect them to start Torrey Craig, get the LeBron matchup there. I think Dwayne Washington does start again, but we'll see. Craig's obviously terrible per minute, but they really are going to use him, I think, in this spot to guard LeBron. So if he could kind of get some leak outs and and the Lakers can be really giving up easy buckets with cutters and stuff too. So I could see, maybe Craig being if he's like Min, maybe having like, a 25 ball or something in him, DFS points wise. But I'm expecting to play quite a bit. O'Shea Brissett will be solid. Goga was really good in the non-Sabonis minutes, some overlap as well. So if Goga's cheap, we know he could put up numbers and a good matchup too. So keep an eye on maybe Goga.
I will say, I've been on the side of the Lakers are kind of like overvalued all season long and like basically looking for any attempts and opportunities to kind of bet against the Lakers tonight, this season. Sorry, but I actually am a little bit concerned about Indy hanging here. Just a little bit concerned, especially if the Lakers start Dwight, just because I think Dwight could cut down a lot of Sabonis' stuff. I think also kind of, rim protection and rebounding for Dwight. Without Miles Turner, Indiana is going to struggle defensively.
Bad.
It's real bad. We saw that against the Clippers. You see the 139 on the scoreboard there. And so some of the things that have hurt the Lakers this year is their offense is really limited, right? They don't have a lot of shooting. They really are dependent on getting out in transition and LeBron just, being LeBron. And I'm a little bit concerned that the perimeter defense and the rim protection specifically could be a big vulnerability for the Pacers here. So this is the first time all season I've been a little bit concerned about the Lakers being the ones potentially blowing out a team in a spot. So if these guys, if the game is close, these guys are going to play tons, and you're going to see Sabonis and LeVert have great games, but mildly concerned there.
I'll add two really quick. Back with Nate Bjorkgren, they were like a funnel defense. They just literally would let guys get to the rim and just let Miles do the work. And when Miles went away, they still did that. Different coaching staff, but again, we saw they did the same thing. It's a hard adjustment to make where you're playing defense differently and kind of protecting the perimeter and losing your rim protector. It's bad. So the Lakers could really put up some points here.
Yeah. All right. Toronto, Gary Trent Jr. He's been the Malcolm Brogdon of Toronto for the last week and a half. Just questionable game time decision ruled out. Questionable game time decision ruled out over and over and over again. In his absence, we've seen Nick Nurse go completely insane and basically playing a 6-man rotation, as if it's the playoffs, as if every game is Game 7 of the playoffs. Do you think we get Gary Trent Jr. back tonight?
Yeah, so he actually did get a game time, as you mentioned. That's an indication. Usually you're one away, so I think he's got a pretty good chance to return. So that'd be almost certainly booting Precious Achiuwa, who's been playing a ton. Also, Chris Boucher has been playing a lot, as you mentioned. Justin Champagnie dislocated his finger, but he was available to return. And Nurse was he said, I didn't want to play anybody else. I felt comfortable with the guys out there. And I mean, this is just insane to go basically 6 there. But those guys should still have pretty high upside. Expect Trent maybe to have a little bit of a cap. He was playing through ankle soreness, and then he hurt it over, 2 weekends ago, whatever it was. So he'll probably have a little bit of a cap, so he might not play the mid 40s like some of these other guys. But still expect.
I would guess Champagnie's completely out. I would guess Achiuwa is in, but with a limited role. And I would guess Boucher's minutes come back down into the 20s. Instead of the upper 30s that we've seen of late. I don't think there will be any impact to Siakam, Barnes, Van Vliet, those guys. Obviously, it impacts the usage and stuff a little bit, but not that much because Gary Trent's not a super high usage guy and actually might help them from an assist perspective and rebounding perspective because it's smaller lineups, it's more floor spacing, it's more room to operate. I mean, man, the Raptors, I don't know how these guys do it. I don't know how we're not going to, in a few weeks, have an injury report littered with Raptors with, hamstring strains and calf strains and different things like that, just because this is a lot of basketball to ask these guys to play.
Yeah. Well, the guys are asked about it, and Siakam's we like it, getting all this extra time. We're still pretty young. And, just a quick note on Siakam, man. Last 15 potential assists from a front court guy is insane. 51 front court touches per game, leads the NBA. Just insane. 7 minutes of touch time, top among point guards. The guy's role is completely absurd here. So I'm excited to maybe see Siakam against a good defense. Get a lot of Maxi Kleber who's playing. So Interesting matchup. And I always say, like, always a Raptor is going to go off if you could play it right. So I'm pumped to play one of those guys tonight.
Some of the smaller questionables on the slate to keep an eye on. The Clippers, they added Nick Batum to health and safety protocols. We have seen some of these things, and especially Clippers injury reporting is always suspect. But we have seen some of these things where guys like enter and then like get pulled back. So, we'll see what happens on Batum.
Well, it's usually not the same day. Sometimes it's like we saw Larry Nance, like he got the out doubtful, and then next day he was able to go. Julius Randle was same day, couldn't return. So if it was inconclusive, we'll see. But probably got to keep him at their word on this one.
Yeah. Luke Kennard questionable with the return to competition reconditioning, so we think he will play tonight. How many minutes? Who knows? Ty Lue's been searching for answers. They were able to get a win against Indiana last time out. But I think, we go back and forth between like Ty Lue's like, oh, yeah, there's no minutes restrictions on my main guys. And then they play a ton. And then the guys complain that they're tired and they're feeling exhausted and whatever. Kennard will help that just in terms of being able to soak up some minutes. Getting Hartenstein back helps that. They're starting to get a little bit closer to that full health. Obviously, PG, the report yesterday that it's still going to be a few more weeks for him. So it'll be interesting. We have Kennard for like upper 20s. I think there will be some limitation to him from the start. I do think that drags down some of the ceiling of Amir Coffey, Eric Bledsoe, those types of guys. I think Reggie Jackson, Marcus Morris, Terrence Mann, I think those guys' roles are pretty safe and secure. Do you feel any differently on the Clippers?
So I'll add one thing that Ty Lue said that he was looking forward to a second unit of Bledsoe, Kennard, Mann, and Hartenstein back together for like basically a 9-man rotation. Yeah. But like now you lose Batum, so what do you do? I think they still start Kennard, play Marcus Morris at the 4. Like that makes the most sense. Get a little more spacing, which is what Batum provides there. So that should, taking Batum out should, maybe up Hartenstein's minute a little bit. Like maybe we saw Mann's minutes get cut down, so maybe he gets a little bit of a boost there, even with Kennard coming out of it. But yeah, like you said, Amir Coffey's upside may come down just a tick. But losing Batum, they're going to use him a lot for defense. So I think Coffey's minutes should be pretty safe here.
All right, Carmelo Anthony has been the questionable and out the last few games for the Lakers. Do we expect him to return tonight?
Yeah, he's not been a game time. He's been getting ruled out early, so decent chance he misses it. Obviously, he's not a spring chicken anymore. Hasn't had too many back injuries in his career from what I was seeing. But at best be game time. At worst, probably hold him out a little bit more until he's fully healthy. So yeah, probably makes it a little bit more likely to start Dwight Howard against Sabonis as well. And we saw the comments from Kurt Rambis and the reports they want to play DeAndre Jordan and Dwight together. And Frank Vogel on the hot seat, maybe he plays LeBron a little bit more too. So some kind of non-basketball or non-on-court basketball stuff could carry on to the on-court stuff.
Yeah. DeAndre Bembry's questionable for the Nets, but I don't even really want to talk about the Nets because I have no idea who's going to play any given night in the rotation. Nash is a mad scientist, and all the secondary guys are kind of unplayable on these big slates anyway. So just be aware that Bembry could not play, and if he doesn't, I don't even really know how it impacts things.
Kessler will get pretty good minutes, but obviously really low usage role for him.
Yeah. Okay. In terms of new situations, Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gay are going to be absent for Utah. Donovan Mitchell went into health and safety protocols. Utah's been one of these teams that's been straggling on the health and safety protocol side, so they lose him. We've gotten a decent sample of life without Donovan Mitchell the last few years, like 10 to 15 games, something like that for the Jazz. Mike Conley's rates have really, really skyrocketed in the games last year. This year, they have not as much. This year, it's been a little bit more Clarkson, but last year it was Ingles and Conley a little bit. So I think it ticks up all of the remaining Jazz guys. And obviously they're still without Whiteside, so the front court gets pretty thin behind Gobert. You could see really, really big minutes from Gobert tonight.
Yeah, I'll add a great matchup for guards against the Rockets. It's one I always excited to play. But like the thing is, Conley's not driving as much. His drives are down this year. His drives in the games without Mitchell, there's only 2 of them. He's only been like 12 and 13. That's a pretty discouraging number. And actually, it's Jordan Clarkson who's led the teams in drives over those 2 Mitchell-less games that Conley did play. So I think Clarkson could go completely ham here without Mitchell. I think Boyan's in an okay spot. I don't like his matchup against Jayshawn Tate, but probably more Rudy Gobert lob stuff too against Christian Wood could really take advantage. Christian Wood's been better pick and roll defender, but I think Clarkson's a guy I think could just go completely nuts in the spot.
Killian Hayes is doubtful for Detroit. Man,
Did he get the doubtful tag officially? Because I was kind of speculating on that.
Oh, I thought that's what I thought. That I don't know.
I could be wrong. Yeah, they didn't file yet.
But he got hurt last night and did not return. So we're expecting that he'll probably have an injury tag tonight. It's obviously a good matchup against Sacramento, but his availability would impact things in the guard spot. We've seen Saban Lee and Corey Joseph step into bigger roles in the past and be successful. So it's one to certainly keep an eye on tonight. After they were just blown out by the Warriors last night.
Yeah, same hip that he had surgery on. They wanted to put him back in the game, couldn't go. So you would assume I'd be really surprised if he could play in this one. He's they've generally been careful with him on injuries. Corey Joseph should be looking at pretty good minutes. Dwayne Casey has talked about we saw the question about revenge games. Like Dwayne Casey is aware of like revenge games. He's said multiple times he likes to play guys against their former teams. So, I think Corey Joseph's interesting. Really good matchup for Cade Cunningham. He's run into some tough spots. He's been struggling a little bit lately because he's run into some tougher matchups. So I think it could be a good spot for Cade. We saw Sadiq suck yesterday. Stewart played pretty well. I like the matchup for him against Holmes too. So, taking Killian out. Could get Saban Lee in the mix too. I assume he's like dirt cheap too. So, probably splitting the minutes pretty close. So either one of those guys, Corey Joseph and Lee, could both do some damage. Oh, and shout out to us for Rodney McGruder playing, and everyone's saying he was out. It goes off for season high 19. Just completely can't miss.
I was a little bit confused on our DFS premium show last night about DraftKings injury reporting in their contest games versus the official NBA injury report. Hopefully, people will learn what the better sources are over time.
Yes.
All right, some returns to action tonight. Alex Caruso is going to be back for the Bulls. At first glance, that would be huge in the absence of Lonzo Ball and Zach LaVine. But the Bulls have specifically said that Alex Caruso is going to be on a minutes limit upon his return. What that minutes limit is, we don't know. But it's been a while for Caruso, and he's kind of gone back and forth on this injury. So I'm expecting like low to mid 20s first night out. So I still think there's a big opportunity for Kobe White, Dosunmu. I think they're comfortable playing those guys, and they're not as comfortable playing McKinney, Troy Brown, those types of guys. So I think they just will slide people up and play like they've shown a willingness to have, Caruso defended Julius Randle earlier in the year. Like they're willing to do these things. So I don't think it hurts Kobe White or Dosunmu quite as much as you might think at first glance.
Okay.
But yeah, I think the Bulls will be willing to just kind of get their best players on the floor. Obviously, it's tough to do this against Cleveland because Cleveland is just absolutely huge. But I don't know, man. I think their perspective is going to be like we got to get shooting and playmaking out there because we just don't have enough of it without DeMar. I
think it affects the Sumo a little bit more. Like they're gonna, as you mentioned, they're gonna need size here, man. If you remember when they played the Cavs early this year, they went to Mobley in the post like every time.
Yeah,
they put the Sumo on him. So
who is the size? Who is the size?
And they're gonna do it again. But like I think Alphonso McKinney versus like Io or
but
I think you're gonna want to put Caruso. You're gonna almost certainly want to put Caruso on Garland. Like that's what I would do. You just have to eat it.
I don't think Caruso is going to start.
No, I think it kind of does, just because they need the ball pressure right away.
Maybe, but I mean, it's going to be a tight minutes limit, so I don't know.
Yeah,
maybe he'll start and play just like 6-minute bursts.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But the thing is, like, I mean, McKinney, like, so maybe they start Caruso over Dosunmu, but Dosunmu is still going to play a decent bit. Like, he's still going to play. He's not going to play 35, but he's still going to play like mid to upper 20s, I think, because like McKinney and Troy Brown and these guys aren't any bigger than Dosunmu. They're not much bigger. They're like 2 inches bigger, 3 inches bigger, and like 30 pounds. Like Mobley's going to kill all these guys. Doesn't matter.
That's true.
So they just don't have options. They don't have options at the 3-4 spot right now. So DeRozan's going to have to, DeRozan's going to have to wear some of this stuff, which is why this is a shaky spot for the Bulls, just in general. Yeah. Really shaky spot.
DeRozan's going to be real busy. He'll get the matchup against Okoro, who can be good at times, but I think DeRozan could take advantage of that spot. Kobe White, decent matchup. He'll see a lot of Garland on the other end, which is a decent spot to attack too. So, I think his minutes are pretty safe.
They also have Tyler Cook as questionable, and I would not be surprised if Tyler Cook immediately played. Immediately played a decent, because he is the only guy that they have with any sort of size that could play the floor a little bit. So would not be surprised if something like that happens.
I'll add Billy Donovan does not like McKinney as a 4. He said it that he's a 3, and is forced to play him as a 4 because they're
it's the problem with Milwaukee currently. It's just It is what it is. They've suffered too many injuries at this position. They weren't deep there to begin with going into the season. Other notables on the return side, there's not much. Marvin Bagley and Tristan Thompson, I think, are kind of a big deal for Sacramento, just because we've seen without them, you've seen kind of the minutes condense on the starters and them being able to go small. And obviously, it's a matchup against Detroit, which anybody like Isaiah Thomas said last night that it's the Detroit get rights, because if you play, against Detroit, you get right. It's a get right spot for Sacramento, certainly. And with Tristan Thompson and Bagley back, with Holmes on some sort of minutes restriction, it seems like it's just a mess in the front court for Sacramento.
Yeah, it's almost like a self-imposed minute restriction. Like even before he went down, like Holmes is not playing well this season for whatever reason. But I think he starts Bagley, so that'll push him as he met to kind of out of the rotation, not out of the rotation, but like out of like contention for a DFS spot. We saw Terrence Davis play a ton in the spot without
no Halliburton in health and safety protocols. So
so he'll play a pretty good amount.
A lot of room for the guards.
Yeah, a lot of room for Davion. I think Davion's in play. I could see his minutes getting increased in the spot. Not a lot of size at 3-4 for the Pistons. And we'll see we should add too that Kelly Olynyk could return for. We got Tyler Cook available, by the way, just now. So Kelly Olynyk returning would move Trey Lyles to the 4. Casey said he liked that, which could squeeze Josh Jackson kind of out. So we'll keep an eye on that. Obviously, Magruder should be available tonight.
Yeah, could squeeze Josh Jackson out. Could also squeeze Cassius Stanley out as well. So like, there's definitely some routes that the Pistons could go. As I said on the show last night, on the front ends of back-to-backs, sometimes teams just randomly expand the rotation. I think that's what happened last night with Detroit, with Magruder getting into the rotation. We thought he'd just play blowout, but he got into the rotation straight tonight. I don't know if that'll be the case on a carryover tonight. I think especially they'll view this game as maybe winnable. So you might see back to a 9-man for Detroit tonight, and you might lose, Magruder or Cassius Stanley, those types of guys for Olynyk if Olynyk is available. And then other really small stuff. Reggie Bullock's back. Austin Rivers is back. I don't expect that Denver will have Bryn Forbes, right? They just acquired him. So Austin Rivers, they just need guard depth. And so having him back is helpful there, but from a DFS perspective, does not move the needle on anything, I don't think. And then with Reggie Bullock back, we'll see if Maxi Kleber is okay. Got upgraded to probable, so hopefully he is. But with Bullock back, there is a little bit more competition for those minutes, just because it gets a little bit more hot handy. I think Dorian Finney-Smith and Maxi Kleber have earned the right to play ahead of Bullock by a decent margin, but they'll be without Sterling Brown, so Bullock can kind of slide right in there, and we'll see. Okay. Anything else that I missed that we need to cover before we get out of here?
No, I think we did it.
Oh, all right. If you are a subscriber to Established Run's NBA DFS premium content, you have one more show of me this week before I get out of here to celebrate my birthday and take some time off. That will be at 5 o'clock Eastern time tonight with myself and Gary Hartman. Gary the GOAT will be giving his GPP thoughts on this monstrous 13-game slate as we break it all down for you there. If you are not a subscriber to Established Run's NBA DFS premium content, at least subscribe to this YouTube channel. Continue to help us build this free content for you, and continues to give us reasons to produce the free content for you by creating more awareness and brand recognition for us around the industry by following and subscribing to the page, while also smashing and hitting that like button so we can get this video circulating around. We do have a price reduction on the DFS side of things with the NBA in-season package for the rest of the season sale. The Mike's highlighting there as well. So it is a good time to buy. The prices have been reduced. And if with football winding down, there's more opportunities. So we will be back at 5 o'clock Eastern behind the paywall with myself and Gary Hartman. And tomorrow you'll get Gary and Mike the injury show at 2 o'clock Eastern. And then on Friday, obviously, Justin Fan the GOAT will join in my absence. But if I am not seeing you on the premium show, I hope you guys all have a great rest of the week. I will be back next Monday or Tuesday, depending on flight, and hopefully no cancellations or travel issues. But good luck. Enjoy the NBA tonight, and I will see you later next week or tonight, depending on if you're a subscriber. Take care, everybody.